Hello, 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 and welcome. I have a feeling that I'm having a sound issue. So if you can let me know in the comments right now, if you can hear me, that's what I want to know. I can hear me, but can you hear me? That is the question of the day. I'm going to get my chat up and I'm also going to check right here and see if I see you guys on yeah, there we go. You love a good countdown, do you, Steve? I know you do. You guys, that's an inside joke. So the fact that I sound good. Thank you so much. The fact that Steve is making fun of me. I used to make fun of him when he live streamed a lot, and oh, that was not a dig, by the way. And I hate countdown timers, and to be honest with Steve, he would do excessive countdown timers. He would do, like, for 2 minutes or 5 minutes, and I would always like, "What are we doing here?" Anyways, thank you very much for letting me know, that you can hear me. I am excited. Welcome to the show today. Super excited to have you guys, and, gonna get that off the screen for a little bit. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Cher Jones, if we haven't met yet. And today is Just a Cher Ask Me Anything. And I'm playing with this new format. I think I'm gonna like it. I've been preparing a few different things, trying to do something different. So I see, it's like I see Karen, she can hear me. This is phenomenal. Enrique, nice to see you joining me live as well. And speaking of live or replay, whether you're watching a live or replay, I'm just glad you're watching. So let me know in the comments, what team are you today? Live or the replay? Team live or team replay? You can put a hashtag. Apparently, which is crazy, apparently using hashtags is like a millennial Gen X tell. Okay, I'm tapping in the Gen X in there. But apparently that's a thing that the Gen Zers are like, yeah, okay. Like when I hear them talk about how old hashtags are and that they don't use hashtags, I feel like a boomer. And I'm millennial adjacent. Yes, I'm Gen X. But when I hear them talk about that, I kind of get in my feelings a little bit. I saw this video where someone was wearing a crossbody bag. Guys, just bear with me a moment. And apparently, women who wear crossbody bags, and we love the crossbody bags. That's like literally secure the bag, right? So we put it across our bag. We feel confident because we don't feel like someone can steal out of our bags. Anyways, apparently, that's another elder millennial Gen X tell because the alphas don't wear crossbody bags. They hug it right there. Anyways, again, you guys are welcoming into a therapy session. Do I have a problem with my age? Absolutely not. But I'm just letting you know it's a thing. So thank you so much for joining me. So today is all about Ask Me Anything. And as we go through, I want you guys to know that if you have questions about how you should show up for your brand at work, how you can create a better brand experience that impacts your reputation, impacts how you work day to day. And this is a different side of branding. So not necessarily what you would hear when you're hearing about visibility and you're hearing about LinkedIn and all your content. Not to say that's not important, but for those of you who are not trying to be America's Next Top Model, those who are not trying to be LinkedIn's next top bot leader, they have no interest in that, which is most of working America, working North America. If you're in Canada or in the UK or in Europe, most of us are not thinking about how can I improve engagement? How can I get my following up and all that stuff? Not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but the fact is there are other things that are more important when it comes to your career, when it comes to how you navigate the workplace on a day-to-day basis. And your brand is definitely a significant part of it because your brand informs your reputation. And your reputation is currency. So your brand is what you do to impact your reputation. Your brand are the things that you are putting together. So branding, the effort goes into how you can influence what people feel, say, and expect about you. And so that is what we're going to be talking about. So if you got a question, make sure you put Q in the comments and the Q and the little colon. It's like, what is that punctuation mark again? Yes, the colon. And let's see. I see. So let's talk about this one. So we're not taking fashion advice from Gen Z. You are absolutely correct. We are definitely not doing that. And if you're just tuning in, don't worry about it. Just know that we're not taking fashion advice from Gen Z. They're not making me feel old. No way. So thank you guys so much for joining me. And what I wanted to do right now is get into the first question. Y'all ready? Let's go. Question number one. What do you do when you feel you've outgrown your current role and the work that fuels you is not another job, but something you're building for yourself? How do you continue showing up with excellence when you no longer feel valued or stretched while preparing to make the transition into entrepreneurship? And this came from an anonymous LinkedIn message. Well, not to me, but to you, and I keep that private. So, great question. Let's get into it. Okay, so a lot of us, as we are continuing to move in and navigate in our workspace, as we continue to mature, as we continue to see new opportunities, as we just see the other side of our assignments and our callings, and wherever we are right now, that then becomes that challenge. How do I show up? And again, I'm not revealing who shared that with me, but I want you to know, the person who asked me about that, you are absolutely not alone. So what I mean by that is that this is a common question. Like, how are you navigating this workplace when you feel that you are in that in-between stage? You're not ready to leave yet, but at the same time, your mind is also starting to track, how do I do this? So the one thing that I can say is, how you leave is how you start. And that's also a Steve Worthyism. So I definitely want to give that to him because, we talk about this stuff all the time. How you leave is how you start. So when you think about how you need to show up at work, and I actually have experience doing that. So a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, when I was moving into this corporate training space, when I was speaking and moving, I was still working in a senior communications role for the city, for the government. And basically what I saw, and this was a time, again, in a galaxy far, far away, and long, long time ago, when social media was just coming up. It was not a thing. Most people were not active on social media the way we see it now. But I could see in the distance that this was going to be a thing. I also noticed the people around me didn't have that same capability. So the other communicators within this government structure, so the city of Toronto, they did not, most of them, I would say 95% would be what's the word? Anyways, 95 would be modest. It's really more than that, but I don't know 100%. So 95% of the communicators did not have a social media background. So let me give you time on that because I did kind of reference time, but we're talking 2009, 2010. It really wasn't a thing. It wasn't moving into communication strategies, but that was the one thing that I could see the future in. And So usually, and this is not always the case, so I'm assuming a lot based off of the question. Usually, a lot of the skills that we're using at work, whether we're using it to the fullest extent, are the same skills that they're transferable skills. So they're going to come with us. And they're perhaps even building a business or an opportunity around those skills. We are in some way or another using them at work. And so going back to the quote around how you leave something is how you start something. The one thing that was important for me is showing up in full integrity at work, making sure that while I'm working on the stuff on the side, I am showing up and I'm being and operating in integrity while at work. So one of the things that I saw, so to connect the dots here, one of the things that I noticed was again, most people, I said 95% as a conservative number, most people in communication roles did not have that social media knowledge and how to incorporate it into their communication strategies or their plans or whatever their marketing plans or whatnot. So while I was there at the City of Toronto, at the side of my desk, I started creating and using these same skills and gifts that I wanted to take on the road. And I started creating a program for the city's employees because there's two reasons why. One, it allowed me to serve. It allowed me to create. It allowed me to give and serve in the way that I'm serving my colleagues, and I'm also bettering how the city is going to start showing up in social media. The second thing that it allowed me to do is put my reps in, right? Because when you're moving into another space, you need proof of what you know and proof of what you've done. That became one of my first and most incredible proof points because at the time, nobody knew a lot. And then on top of that, I need proof that I could actually go out there and train. At the time, I was focusing on social media training. I trained like everything, Pinterest, Google Plus, that was a thing back then, Facebook, all the stuff. Anyways, but that gave me a proof point. So back to the question, how do I show up? So the first strategy would be, do you have that transfer? Are you leveraging a transferable skill that you're bringing with you? Well, how can you create an opportunity to share that in the workplace? Is there an opportunity? Sometimes it's even if it's not connected, you're going to do life coaching or career coaching or something like that. Again, I'm making this stuff up. I don't know. You could do a lunch and learn where you're serving the employees, you're getting your first testimonials. So those are great ways. So while you're there, you're putting your reps in, you're also creating what could be referral partners. Because when I left the City of Toronto, my internal clients that I served, as well as those other communicators, they were actually referring me to future opportunities. So I want you to keep that in mind. The second thing while you're there, so there's because that was a two-parter, that question. The second thing is, well, you're not feeling that energy. You're not feeling that energy. You're not being energized by the work or how you're showing up or the recognition around that. Sometimes, I would say a majority of the times, that recognition and that respect and this is not me imposing that you're not being respected, but that recognition for the work you're doing, for the knowledge you have, the expertise that you bring to the table, and the impact it makes. I would argue that most people are not effectively communicating their value in a way that people can recognize and respect it. And in context to your work. And so that's what I want you to also think about is, do people see the value of what you're doing? And oftentimes they may not see the value because you haven't told them. They're just seeing it as a checkbox being done. So that's something that you're also going to have to work on, and putting proof of what you know, proof of what you do out there, and then get your reps in. So that would be my advice as far as that's concerned. Hopefully that's helpful to you. And of course, if you have any questions, slide back into the DMs and I'll be able to answer that. So now I see another question. I hope that was helpful again. And now I see another question live in the comments. And this is from Randy. How do you show up in an impactful way when you work 100% remote? Randy, thank you for sharing that question because this is important. So, this comes back to that proof of what you know, proof of what you do, and also communicating effectively of the of what you are accomplishing, of the impact you're making, but in a way that they're gonna receive it. And this is where most people get it wrong, right? Because they either pull back from communicating, uh, what they're doing because it feels like they're bragging, or they actually come across bragging. And neither of those work for you. So that silent, I'm just going to do it. I do good work. People should know. And I'm not saying this is you. Or on the other side is that we over communicate and it's not in context. It feels like it's coming out of nowhere. It feels like you're bragging or showing off. It's like, how do we make that connection? And this is where I've developed a communication technique called value wrapping. This is where you're wrapping your value around the people that you're serving. So, what does that mean exactly? That's making sure that they see that you understand their problem or that you understand what they want to accomplish. Because it's not always you're solving a problem. Sometimes the framing around problem anyways is usually negative, but sometimes what you're doing is you're accelerating a path forward. You're helping them get somewhere, and you want to, before they can even hear about you talking about yourself, we got to make it about them. So you've got to look and connect it to the room, connect it to, even if it's in a specific meeting. This is not always about this grand big picture of things. It's about making sure that you are constantly in an effective way, so that value wrapping way where you're wrapping your value around the people that you're serving so that they can see the work you're doing for them, so they can get excited. They can appreciate and respect and recognize what comes into play, which gives you more fulfillment. And then also the recognition that you're actually making an impact. And so by taking a look and connecting the dots to what matters to them, that becomes a big deal. So I want you to be more intentional. I guess all of that talk to say, I want you to be more intentional about communicating your value when you're 100% remote. But communicating your value in conversations needs to happen. But also, where's the proof, right? So, this is where showcasing your impact through teaching tools would be one example. So, what I mean by that is if you've developed a best practice, if you have seen that this is the result that you can get by doing it this way, and that way, you could create a, a mini teaching session that you can share with the team, a best practices guide where you can explain that and show them here's the results when you do it this way. And then that what you're doing is you're putting the reps in by letting them know that here's where I've done this and these are the results I've got. So this is why I want you to do it. So what happens is you're starting to talk about what you know and what you've done in a way that is beneficial for their results. And then the last thing is sharing the wins in the right places with the right people. Not all of it has to go online. It can go in email. So making sure you're sharing those results, what people have said, the feedback around what they're doing. You've got to be intentional. But to wrap this all up in a bow, it's about first acknowledging what they want, what the problem is. So make it about them. And then you connect the dots and you build on with your credibility so that they are excited about what you're doing. So I hope that is helpful. And I want to say thank you to Shanae Team Live. She sent me some great questions as well. So thank you for that. A lot of people actually have. So what's amazing is I have a bank of questions, but definitely want you to keep them coming if you have them. And that would be phenomenal. And thank you so much, Randy. Yeah, the value wrapping, make it about the room. Definitely make it about the room. And I bet you have experiences where you've actually done that and you could see the difference because now when you're talking about you, you're really talking about them. And what do people want to talk about? Themselves. What do they think about? Their problems. And when you make it about them, it allows you to show up in a way that they're seeing how you're helping them, and then you are showing them that you can actually do it. So, absolutely, and Randy's like, sharing the notes, best practices, proof points, results. Yes, intentionally sharing the wins. See, I didn't even have to make notes. Randy got us. So, this is something that I want all of you guys to consider when you are putting yourselves out there like that. So, definitely appreciate the question live. And if you've got more questions, again, just add in the Q button. And so the next question that I got for you guys, we're going to move into in just a second. So again, if you got questions, just share the queue and I will find it in the chat. And for now, let's move on to question number 2. Question 2. I love this one. It showed up on my news feed. Can the company you work for make or force you to make changes to your LinkedIn profile? This is the debate, and I'm curious to know what you guys think. Also, this showed up on my news feed from Daniel Disney. And if you wanted to participate, if it's still active, or see the results, the final results, you can scan that code after the show. I'll leave the link in the notes below so you can access it. But this is a major question that I can't wait to talk about. So let's get into it. So I'm definitely looking forward to finding out the results of that survey. And this is something that I come across a lot doing the training that I do. It usually, when people bring me in to train their teams and how their brand, especially their outward brand, the digital presence of their brand impacts the work that they do, their profiles is obviously the first stop. And it's also a great resting place for all of the work that we uncover about how their work, their impact, and their skills and talents and expertise connect back to the work that they're doing right now. So the interesting thing about that is, can your employer actually force you to update your LinkedIn profile? The answer, so the legal answer, and I'm not a lawyer, so let's keep that in mind. The legal answer is no, they can't, because this is your LinkedIn profile. And there may be some wiggle room around if they're paying for a premium account for you and they're paying for it for you as a tool, but that's usually still considered an add-on. And yes, you can argue that. But then I want to argue for, so not about them forcing you to do something, but if you, especially those who are regularly using their presence and they got to meet to eat, they got to meet people, whether they're in account management or whether they're part of the sales team, especially if they're a technical expert, which is who I work with a lot of, like researchers and anybody who's doing any sort of software development and science, and they're doing a lot of research in that space. They're the experts on the product. And what's interesting, and this is what I want you to think about, is when we see that logo association. So typically when they're saying, and this is how I read that question anyways, is like that cover photo behind me. Do I have to put Acme Co., their banner picture behind my name, or behind my head when you come and look at my LinkedIn profile? So again, it's your profile. This goes with you when you leave. They do not own your contacts. They do not own anything. They do not own your presence. But the awkward thing is, okay, if you don't do it, what does that say about you? And not that that says anything bad about you, but people we still got to deal with the consequences of dealing with regular people and how they might perceive it. But that aside, it's still your choice. But that aside, let's look to the positives. So one, if an employer was requesting that I have a background and a banner, one of the things that you can ask for them to do is also pay for a premium account, because then you can get what they call a slider. So that allows you to have multiple images going through. And that's a great way to represent and then represent you at the same time. So that's an option. But there is a positive for that brand association. So especially if again, if you're doing outreach for the brand on behalf in your work, so you have to contact people, you're showing up, you someone's looking you up before the next meeting because they have no idea who you are, especially if you're working externally with clients and partners and vendors. And that brings the immediate trust. It's one of those things. It's like, oh, okay, I know where you're from. I immediately feel a little bit of a sense of relief that there's that brand connection and I can make the connection. So there is a positive reason for doing it. And then the way that I work with employees and helping them build their brand at work is communicating what they do right now, because people are not interested in what you've done until they know what you can do for them. And so by especially if we're focusing in on your role right now, because that's why they're looking you up. Nobody reads your about section unless they're like doing some sort of when I'll use another legal term because why not be a lawyer today, is your due diligence, right? So that is where when you're showing up, you are they're checking you out and they're validating or verifying who you are. So the about section is really where you get the opportunity to frame what you do now. Because again, if you think about your own habits, nobody's reading about sections unless I need to connect what you do to what I need. And that's why it's the perfect spot for you to frame what you do now and connect and then let people connect all the dots around what you've done, but in a way that frames and qualifies how incredible you are. Like we're connecting that dots to do what you do and how you serve. So just keep that in mind. And I hope that is helpful so far. The chat on the stream, unfortunately, on my screen has stopped updating, but that's okay. This is technology for you. But I'm going to go check in a minute. In the meantime, let's move on to question number 3. All right, number 3. How can I use AI to help me stand out at work? This also came in through the LinkedIn DMs, and it is a hot topic. It's a hot question, and I can't wait to talk about it. So I love this question because I think it matters now more than ever that you are communicating as far as an experience for your brand, your AI literacy and how you use AI. I remember November, December, well, ChatGPT, just November, December 2022, when that first came out, that was like a back pocket secret, especially for those who were early adopters. Is like, do I really want to let people know that I'm using AI? Is this something that I want to share? Is this something that I want to put out there? Because it seemed like such an accelerator. And for many of us, including myself, it made us feel in the moment smarter. We were able to accomplish more. And especially for the majority age demographic that I know watches me, listens to me, you guys have been around the block at least once. And so that means that you have now through AI and AI tools, the capacity to do more. And more importantly, the capacity and what I mean by capacity, I mean the knowledge, the expertise, the skill set to look at an output and say, okay, thanks, Skip. You at least you brought me to the good part, which is the editing part. At least you started me along the path. At least you were able to bring it together. And then, yes, I mean, I talk to my AI all the time. If you're watching last week, I shared an app that I love, Whisperflow. But at the end of the day, if you are leveraging AI, especially for your work, I would absolutely communicate how you're using it, and more importantly, what your human touch is on that. What going through the workflows, sharing with people, this is what helped me, but here's what I had to do to bring it to this level. And because what you're doing is you're showing how you are actively using AI as a partner tool to and as a partner, as a productivity tool, so that the natural brand experience, and we're talking about experiences here, is the fact that people are now seeing you as someone who's progressive, seeing you as someone who understands the tools, seeing you as someone who is also mindful about your performance, mindful about what you can do, not wasting time. These are perceptions, like it or not. And this is how we end up showing up. And I'm just making sure that I see you guys in the chat. But anyways, we want to make sure that you are showing your innovation, your willingness to learn, and your ability to leverage what's in front of you. And then also, one of the best ways, I think I mentioned it in the second question, the question from Randy is teaching, showing people and creating documents or creating workflows that you're showing people you know what you're talking about and what you do. So those are things that I want you to think about. So yes, AI matters. Also, including I was talking to a friend and he was telling me how much he uses AI and how it serves the work that he does. And then when I was looking at his LinkedIn profile, I'm like, bro, where is that? I don't see anything. Yeah, sometimes I talk to people like that. But seriously, I did not see anything. And I'm like, this is a huge, because, especially because he was so established in the industry, in his experience, the work that he does, like he's got years under his belt. And especially for us who are in that elder millennial, Gen X mode, and even the boomers, if you are using AI, it makes you even smarter. It makes you more valuable because the one thing that you have is that significant layer of experience that really truly builds your capacity and allows you to accelerate your experience. So that's what I want you to do. So coming back to the whole brand experience, yes, you want to make sure that you are connecting the dots around how you use AI if you are actively using it. Even if you talk about how you're experimenting with AI, the tools that you're testing, the things that you are using, even if it is, I've seen some people where because of the restrictions, the AI restrictions in their workplace, they've found a way to talk about it in how they use it at home or through their hobbies or how they're building out thought leadership or whatever the case may be. But the point is that this is proof of what you know and proof of what you do. And in this day and age where we've heard this a million times, we've been hearing this since 2022, is, AI is not going to replace you. That's what they say. But really and truly, the person who knows how to use AI will. That is absolutely true. I don't know about the first one because we've seen a lot of things. Either way, all I know is the person who knows how to use AI is a lot more valuable than the person who doesn't, especially if they have proof that they're using it. So that would be the question of the day. That was the third question. So I had three questions for you. And also, if you have more questions, you can feel free to send them to me via DM. I'm going to set up a question box so I can answer your questions on the next episode. And let me know. What do you want to know? What do you want to talk about? What do you got a question about? I would love to have you ask it. Just ask Cher. That's kind of the vibe here today. And yeah, you just want to make sure, if we think about the questions today, showing up when it's almost time to go. So we talked about that. We talked about the fact that you can still put your reps in while you're not ready to walk out just yet. And then as well, do you have to change your LinkedIn profile for the job? There's the pros and the cons, and we talked about that. And at the end of the day, I think there's more pros than cons. But feel free to go vote on Daniel Disney's his poll or see the results depending on when you're watching this show. And of course, the AI and your brand at work, I definitely think it's a plus, but I think you cannot assume that people know that you're using AI, especially if you're using it. So make sure you let people know your profiles are perfect. place to deposit that information, but also show it in meetings, show it when how you work, share your workflows so people know. So what's next? Hey guys, I just want to get your questions. So if you got a question about building your brand at work, creating a better experience where people know what you can do, your credibility is creating opportunities and awareness for you to do your best work at work. And of course, that fact that when you walk in the room, people are glad that you're in the room, that cheers effect that we talked about last week. That's what I want for you. So definitely make sure you stay tuned. I'm going to check my little chat widget once again to see if I see anybody else. Unfortunately, guys, the chat widget is not working. So I'm going to bring up the handy dandy iPad just to see, is there anything else that I'm missing before I tune out? Do you know what I miss about LinkedIn? They used to, when we would go live, this header here would be broadcasting. So that doesn't show anymore, but that's fine. And let me see here. I'm just seeing if there's any final questions. And yeah, that looks like we are good to go. So thank you guys so much for watching. And I'll definitely see you next Friday. And we're testing that time to see how it works. And in the meantime, if you got questions, you know what you need to do. Just ask Cher. Have a great show. Have a great show. Have a great week, guys.